Deli Guy's last day. Years ago I was a driver delivering from a distribution center to the company's retail grocery stores. While getting unloaded at a store I was told this story by one of the managers. They had several managers, one of whom was a nitpicky wannabe Hardass. They also had a guy who worked at the deli counter who served things out of the deli case and cut meat and cheese to order. Deli Guy was cool, laid back. One of those guys who got his work done without necessarily doing everything by the book to the letter. Hardass hated him, and was always looking for things to lecture about and write up. Deli Guy never seemed like this got under his skin. Until one day it did. According to other employees, Hardass had a hard-on for writing Deli Guy for an entire shift. Every little thing. Deli Guy never raised his voice, never stopped smiling and finished his shift, taking over all the cleanup at the end. After he left that night, Deli Guy called the cool manager, who told me this story. All he said was, "Dude, I quit. I'm sorry." The next day, morning deli shift comes in and they can't find the parts to the meat and cheese cutters. The things Deli Guy was supposed to clean at the end of his shift. After a frantic search, calls to former Deli Guy that went straight to voicemail. The missing critically important cutters were found. They were in a big trash bin, like the ones you put your trash out on the curb in. The bin was filled with water. The bin, filled with water with the parts for the cutting machines and the bottom were in the freezer. They had been there for 7 hours. On the bin was a note. "Hey Hardass. I quit. Eat a dick. Former Deli Guy. Some days I think of that guy. I hope to be as cool as him one day." I completely understand the Deli Guy. As I was once a Deli Guy, I wish I froze the speak out of turn. Then become a disappointment to your own kids. Several years ago I took my family to see one of the Star Wars films. We are a family of 6. To set the stage of how we are sitting. My second daughter, 16 at the time, is sitting to my left and next to the daughter of another family of 3 son, dad, daughter that we do not know. The children of that family next to us look to be in their late teens, early 20s. Basically they are both adult age 18. My daughter expresses herself through her hair color, piercings, etc. And we are perfectly fine with that. Her hair at this time was likely some bright crazy color. She has gauges in her ears that aren't overly large and she has a septum and nose piercing. She is very confident in who she is and I couldn't be more proud of her. So, my daughter and I are chit-chatting back and forth a bit as we wait for the previews to begin. Doing all the things you generally do before a movie. When a voice catches my attention. It's the father of the family to our left in a voice a bit louder than I think he intended, saying, "I would never want any of my children to look like that. Don't you ever do that." I immediately went into Papa Bear mode. I sat forward in my seat and loudly said, "What did you just say?" He looked at me a bit shocked as he was now confronted by me. Inside I'm just a big teddy bear. But on the outside I'm a bit scary looking. Picture shaved head, long beard, tattoos, and you'll get the idea. I continued, "I know you weren't just talking about my daughter. A minor. Sitting here right beside you. From there it's a bit of a blur. To sum it up, over the next couple of minutes, I put him in his place. And loudly defended my daughter. Everyone in the theater was watching. His 2 kids started saying sorry and apologizing and he just sat there in a stupor. He didn't say anything else for the rest of the movie. As we were all standing up to leave, the other father hurried out of the theater and the 2 adult kids lingered behind. The daughter stood there looking at me and my daughter, and with disappointment on her face and in her voice said to my daughter, "I'm so sorry. I don't know why my dad is like that." I think her opinion of her dad was forever changed that day. Parents provide excellent examples to their children. Some of how to act, others how not to act. I think you provided a nice contrast and comparison for everyone that day. Thank you for being a great dad. I hate people who think they have a superiority because they don't have piercing or tattoos. I get the question, what are you going to do at 70 or 80 with all them tattoos? My usual response is I will be more worried about not pissing myself or breaking my hip replacement from falling down than what people think of my wrinkled, beautifully colored skin. Good for you for standing up for your daughter. You set a much better example of a parent than the father who didn't even have the decency to apologize when you confronted him. No, it was that way for years. She just never had anyone defending her or others from his prissy rants before. The thing about teddy bears, people tend to forget that even all fluffy and cute, they are still bears. And still have teeth and claws that sometimes come out. So, well done being the full teddy bear. Not just being cute and cuddly. Push in front of me and check out the stank. This happened in 1989 in Chicago. I was at a grocery store and had just a handful of items. I entered the checkout line, and before I could put my purchases on the conveyor belt, I was hit with the stench of speep, rotten eggs, and fermented urine. Ahead of me was a homeless man purchasing a 40 ounces beer, swaying as he was counting out his coins. I stepped back several feet, which gave a preppy Karen just enough room to shove/cut in front of me in the line. Before she could retreat from the wall of stink, I quickly stepped forward, trapping her between me and the homeless guy. She tried to retreat to get away from him, but I turned 3/4 and braced myself. I wasn't moving. The guy was wasted and fumbling to count out the nickels, dimes, and pennies for his beer. We locked eyes, stink eye, if you will, and she knew exactly what I was doing. It took forever for the guy to check out, and Karen had to endure. I'm guessing she had to wash her clothes when she got home, as they were permeated with his odor. I smiled all the way home. Came here expecting flatulence. Still was not disappointed. Flatulence. What comes out of the mouths of flat earthers? That sounds quite satisfying. I've worked in an emergency room where I got to smell this firsthand too many times. If they vomit, then the smell is exponentially bad. Alcohol is simply a mild poison, and it will rot your body over time. Sitting here reading Reddit and mildly poisoning myself. This would have been 1973, and I was a bagger courtesy clerk at a supermarket. This guy would come in once a week or so, and he smelled how you described. Well, back then, if there were only 2 bags, we carried them out in our arms, not in a cart, macho thing. I carried these 2 bags out for this man with my head turned away from him so I could breathe. We get to his car, which was unlocked. He put his keys in and locked it. He pulled on the handle and it wouldn't open, of course. So with me about to lose the breath that I've been holding during all of this, he put his keys back in and unlocked it. He then opened a door for me so I could set his groceries inside. Gag. The part that made me shake my head through all of this, Nada took the boat, but my uncle sabotaged it. Despite how long ago I posted stories about my step-great-grandmother Nada, I recently found out another part of the story from my mother. As an old post I made about her stated that after my great-grandfather passed away, she tried to sue my family for everything and lost, but somehow still got my great-grandfather's fishing boat in the lawsuit. My uncle exploited a technicality that the boat's outboard engine was not included in the deal because it technically wasn't an original part of the boat. So he ripped it off before Nada came for it. And it's been sitting in a shop ever since. The part I didn't know till recently was that my uncle also sabotaged the boat by making holes in the underside, so it'd start to sink once in the water. And apparently he made the holes look like they had been caused by rock damage, like it had hit jagged stones. Nada would have had to have paid someone to fix it, as only an aluminum welder could close those holes. Or she would have had to just sell the boat in its damaged state, which left it nearly worthless. We don't know what she did with it, but it likely cost her either way. I'm glad she didn't get anything of worth after